Okay, a public hearing by the Downers Grove Planning and Zoning Commission will now be called to order at 7 p.m., February 2nd, 2026. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Okay, before we get started, we have our few standing announcements. If you have an electronic device, if you could please make sure it's silenced for the duration of the meeting so that we don't interrupt anybody who happens to be speaking, that would be appreciated. Mr. Barry, we have a new plan commissioner's first meeting tonight, so welcome.
Thank you very much.
And also, as far as the meeting material is concerned, it will display on the screens. The QR code is up there if you want to scan that. You can pull up the meeting material on your electronic device, but it will all display on the screens for you. And also, there's a sign-in sheet. If you can sign in, you will be able, or we can record you in the minutes as having attended the meeting. Okay, so with that, we'll get into the agenda. First are the minutes from the January 5th, 2026 meeting. Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes?
I have a correction. Page 4, paragraph 6. Commissioner Patel, the comments were attributed to him instead of me. Okay.
Any other corrections to the minutes?
I had some that I sent into village staff, so I'm assuming those are you already have them.
Okay, yes, that's correct. For the record, Commissioner Lincoln did send into changes to the minutes, which we will accommodate with the published minutes.
Okay, so with the inclusion of those corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I would so move to approve the minutes as corrected.
Okay, motion by Mr. Lincoln. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Frankovic. All in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstain? Okay, minutes are approved.
Chairman, for the record, roll call.
Oh, I skipped roll call, huh? All right, roll call. Here.
Patel,
Here.
Toth,
Here.
Lincoln,
Here.
Everhart, absence, Reyes,
Here.
Wolf,
Here.
Barry,
Here.
Chairman record.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have two public hearings tonight. The first one is the amendment to the PUD 31, which is adding a use in the allowable uses in the PUD. And the second one is the project that's at between, it's across the street from the library, just west of the library. That will be the second item on the agenda. So I'm just going to quickly summarize for anybody who hasn't been to one of our meetings before, kind of the process and procedures that we go through for each of these two public hearings, and we'll follow this process for both public hearings. First, we'll start off with the petitioner's presentation. They'll come up to the podium and present their application, and that'll be followed immediately by questions from the plan commissioners. Secondly, we'll go to the public, and you'll have the opportunity to come up and make comments, ask questions about the petition. And then thirdly, and when you do come up, if you could just state your name for the record, we need to get that recorded. And then thirdly, we'll go to the staff report. A member of the Community Development Department will present the staff report regarding the petition, followed by questions of the Plan Commission. And then we go back to the petitioner and give them an opportunity to come back and address or comment on anything that may have come up during either public input or the staff report. Okay, after that, we will we'll kind of move up here and discuss and deliberate up here. And then we'll have an opportunity to kind of go around the horn and make any kind of last comments. And then we'll look for a motion to either approve with refinements, or deny the application. And then it will get forwarded on to the village council. The village council will make the final decision on both of these cases. We're a recommending body. The elected officials, the mayor and village council, make final decisions at a future date at a future meeting. And they too will hold a public hearing where if you leave here and there was something else you wanted to ask or some additional comments you wanted to make, you will have another opportunity at the village council level to come back and speak again. Okay, so with that, this is a public hearing, so we do need to swear anybody in. If you feel like you want to come up and speak, we swear everybody in as a group here. If we could do that now, if you could just raise your right hand. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, if so state in the affirmative? I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, the first item is case 25 PZC 0040, seeking amendment to PUD number 31 to allow for an amendment to the approved allowed uses list in PUD number 31. The property is generally located west of Lacey Road, approximately 1,100 feet north of the intersection of Lacey and Finley Roads, and extending north to Butterfield Road and west of Wood Creek Drive, commonly known as the Esplanade at Locust Point and Downers Grove. Petitioner is Hamilton Partners, petitioner and the owner is Hamilton Partners. So with that, if you want to introduce yourself for the record, and then you can, the floor is yours to do your presentation.
Great. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Plan Commission. I'm Kelly Buffton. I'm representing the applicant. I'm an attorney at Haynes Boone at 180 North LaSalle in Chicago. I'm joined tonight by a number of the principals of Hamilton Partners if you have questions, including Phil Sheridan, Ron Lunt, and Gary Morey. They'll be available if you have any questions, but they're not planning on presenting anything tonight unless you ask them. Hamilton Partners and its affiliate owners have filed this application for an amendment to Planned Unit Development number 31 to allow hospital uses in the PUD. On the board is the property as shown. The hatched area, not the solid area, but the hatched area around is the entire PUD 31, and that's what we're seeking hospital uses for. The property is located at the southwest corner of Butterfield and Route 355. It's currently zoned ORM and is known as Esplanade at Locust Point. I think you're probably all familiar with it. It's a mixed-use development with high and low-rise offices, a hotel, restaurant, and retail uses. There are about 17.5 acres that are still vacant, and that is the solid lined area shown on the drawing. Surrounding uses are almost all in Downers Grove. Starting with the upper left-hand corner, there's ORM to the west. There's vacant land, which is currently zoned R1, also to the west. Then to the south, there's additional ORM. Across 355, there's retail uses and retail zoning. Across Butterfield Road, there's at the intersection, there is also a retail use. And then at the very corner in the upper left is some residential in Glen Ellen. While several proposals for developing this parcel over the years have been discussed, none of them have previously come to fruition. I think you probably know that this project began in the early 2000s. So we're really excited to bring tonight to you the possibility of having this parcel being developed. We've entered into an agreement to sell the parcel to a hospital who will be presenting and talking about their position, but it's contingent upon adding the hospital uses to the permitted PUD, because otherwise they will not be able to operate. We strongly believe that we have met we will meet all the criteria for the approval of the PUD amendment as required in your ordinance. And that, as I said, we are very excited. We really think this will be a great addition to the development, a great addition to Downers Grove as a whole. To expand on the project, I turn this over to the attorney representing the hospital.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buffton. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Kate Duncan, and I'm attorney representing Ann and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago. In connection with this application, which is 25 PZC 0040, which is an application for an amendment to Planned Unit Development number 31 to add hospital uses as an allowed use within the plan development. Lurie Children's is interested in constructing a new hospital on the property located within PUD 31 and has been working with the owner of the property, Hamilton Partners, on this possibility. However, in its initial diligence, Lurie Children's realized that neither PUD 31 nor the underlying ORM zoning classification contemplate hospital as an allowed use. As a result, Lurie Children's is reluctant to further pursue the property as a contender for a new hospital or to develop specific and detailed plans for a hospital on property without knowing that the hospital use is a use that can be allowed under PUD number 31. Lurie Children's does understand that if this PUD amendment application tonight would be approved and going through the village council process would ultimately be approved, we'd have to come straight back to you with a separate, detailed, specific PUD amendment application that would include all the specific plans and elevations and details about a specific use on this particular property. And that would obviously have to come back through you and then also go back through the whole village council process as well. So, but this first step is this initial PUD amendment, which will potentially acknowledge that a hospital use is one that could be permitted within the PUD, which would allow Lurie Children's to proceed through the initial stages of development of that specific hospital without concern that the village does not want and will not contemplate a hospital use within PUD 31. So Hamilton Partners submitted an application package to you that specifically addresses all of the criteria for approving addition of the hospital as an allowed use in the PUD. Lurie Children's also believes that all of the approval criteria for the PUD amendment have been met, but I thought I would go through and highlight a few of the specific PUD criteria for you tonight. So the first PUD criteria is whether the proposed PUD amendment would be consistent with the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans. Lurie Children's believes a hospital use within the PUD would advance many of the goals and key recommendations of the comprehensive plan, including facilitating the creation and enhancement of mixed-use areas that include offices, commercial, retail, and other community amenities. We further note that the comp plan acknowledged that mixed-use development could be appropriate within the Esplanade. The PUD currently contains a mix of uses, including a hotel, multiple restaurants, multiple office tenants, Midwestern University, and a daycare. The addition of a hospital use to the PUD would be complementary to the existing uses and would further enhance the mixed-use nature of PUD number 31. A hospital use would be a compatible use with surrounding office and other commercial uses, and it would maintain the larger scale of buildings that was contemplated for PUD number 31. The hospital use would allow for active use of the property that has long been vacant within the PUD, and the comprehensive plan recommends support and encouragement for the completion of Esplanade. The hospital use also supports the comprehensive plan goal of supporting evolving healthcare needs of the village and village collaboration with providers, including exploration of partnerships with Midwestern University where possible. Lurie Children's welcomes collaboration with the village, and it welcomes collaboration with Midwestern University and possibly other Downers Grove institutions as it further develops its plans. The proposed PUD amendment, we believe, would also conform with the Butterfield Road Corridor Plan, which is another plan, and it describes the Butterfield Road Corridor as a regional employment center, making it an economic driver for surrounding communities. A hospital use would fit well within that description, since we anticipate the hospital use would bring an increase in jobs, patients, and visitors to the region. The corridor plan advises supporting locally serving uses such as medical care. The hospital use fits right within that strategy. Okay, the second criteria is whether the PUD complies with the PUD overlay district provisions of the zoning code. The PUD overlay district provisions allows uses in a PUD that may not otherwise be allowed in the underlying zoning district as a means of accommodating mixed-use development and economic development opportunities. We believe a hospital use in the Esplanade would create significant and high-quality economic development opportunities, including opportunities for high-quality jobs and an increased use of nearby commercial businesses by employees, patients, and visitors for the hospital use. Again, Lurie Children's understands that it must bring specific site and development plans back to this body for review and approval, but the PUD overlay district requires high-quality buildings and improvements that are compatible with the surrounding area. And so this PUD amendment does not change this requirement, so any proposal that Lurie Children's would ultimately bring back to you must and will meet that standard. The third criteria is whether the proposed development will result in public benefits that are greater than or at least equal to those that would have resulted from development under conventional zoning regulations. We believe the proposed hospital use will result in access to high-quality healthcare services and will allow for high-quality development of a vacant site within Esplanade, will allow for high-quality job growth and an increased support of surrounding commercial businesses, from employees, patients, and visitors to the hospital. We hope that all of those are public benefits that will be at least equal to any other development that would have resulted with the existing PUD uses. And then finally, as to the fourth criteria, which is whether appropriate terms and conditions have been imposed on the approval to protect surrounding property owners and the general public. So this, again, this PUD amendment is only to address hospital as an allowed use within the PUD, not to address any project-specific impacts that may result from any specific hospital use of the property. So Lurie Children's will intend to bring a full PUD amendment application back through here in order to comply with this final criteria too. So with all of this in mind, Lurie Children's believes that the criteria for approval of a PUD amendment have been met, and we respectfully request that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed PUD amendment to allow hospital uses within the PUD. And we hope to be back here before you with a full PUD amendment at some point in the near future.
Okay.
We're happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions at this time for the petitioner?
I would just curious, would Hamilton Partners still own the property?
No, we have a contract to sell the property to Lurie if this goes through. But the entire development is covered by development restrictions.
Mhm.
So they'll become part of that. They're limited under those restrictions as well.
Right.
And they have to provide,
Right.
the common amenities will remain, and they have to provide their share of the cost of those.
Any other questions at this time for the petitioner? No? Okay, we're gonna go to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll come back to you after the staff report.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, are there any members of the public who'd like to speak at the public hearing for the, for PUD 31? If you could just start with your name for the record.
Sure.
And the floor is yours.
Brian Gay, Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this evening. I'll keep my comments brief. In your packet for this evening, you do have a letter of support from myself on behalf of the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation. Our executive committee has reviewed this petition as well as this entire project in detail over the last few months that we've been working with both the petitioner as well as the end user. And we believe that this would be a major, just positive impact on Downers Grove, on the PUD, as well as just all of our residents as well. So we strongly support this and hope to see it through. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else in the public who would like to speak? Good evening, Mr. Richards.
Hello, how are you?
Got your name right this time.
Now I forgot it. Scott Richards, Downers Grove. I have no issues at all with the idea of a hospital. I'm just questioning the location. Why? Esplanade has been very successful from day one, I believe, and as far as its intent and for businesses, industrial, whatever. And just to plop a hospital in the middle of that, I'm just curious why they feel like that's a good location for it. That's all. I just think they could find a better spot. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Marshall Schmidt. I just want to speak in favor of this and just tell a very, very quick story. My daughter, when she was in high school, suffered a very serious injury and was taken to Good Samaritan Hospital. And at that time, they had a full pediatric ward. After she was treated, they essentially shut down the ward. They have a PICU there, but it's a limited pediatric ward. Bringing Lurie Hospital here would be a tremendous advantage to the village. My daughter went on to become a pediatrician, and I emailed her the notice that Lurie was wanted to open a hospital here, and she asked where they were going to put it. And I couldn't say because there's so limited space here in Downers Grove. I had no idea where they might put a hospital. So to answer the last gentleman's question, this is a wonderful opportunity to develop a piece of property that has not been developed before. And providing this service for this community is spectacular. Lurie Hospital is a preeminent medical institution, and bringing it to Downers Grove will greatly enhance the village.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak at the public hearing for this item? Last chance for anybody who wants to speak. Good evening.
Hi, Janet Winningham. I think this is a great location for the hospital. It is clearly accessible with 355 and Butterfield Road, major highways that will make it easy for people to get into that area and not have to go downtown in Chicago and fight traffic and streets. I think it's, assuming that the plan goes as developed well, which I assume it will be, it is a boon to our community, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak at this time? Okay, hearing none. We'll go to the staff report.
Sure. Jason Zawilla, Planning Manager with the Village of Downers Grove. I'm going to present the staff report for this evening. This is for case 25 PZC 0040, a plan unit development amendments for the Esplanade at Locust Points. Just like with all cases, the proper public hearing notices was followed on this one. Signs were placed on the property as shown on the screen. Mailing notices were sent out to residents, and a newspaper notice in the paper too, as required by the village ordinance. So with this, the petitioner provided the overview as part of their presentation. Is they would like to add hospital as an approved use in the PUD, because currently it is not, and this is the process to do that. As also noted by the petitioner, we don't have detailed development plans at this time, but that will come back through the process through another amendments, where we will look at all things like zoning, architectural, engineering, stormwater control, and traffic. So we will look at that with a future amendment process. Some of you were on the Planning and Zoning Commission when the multifamily request for the subject property came through. That was a very similar process where the use was added as an amendment, and they followed up with detailed site plans. It will also be under your purview to review for recommendation to the village council. So following a very similar process. As staff likes to do is give a brief analysis on how this forms to our comprehensive plan. Guiding DG, again, was approved last year, and so I'm just going to provide a high-level overview. Petitioner did cover a couple of these bullet points, so I'll try not to be too redundant. But in terms of the location, for the hospital, it does benefit from access and visibility that you have in the location in town. It does foster those partnerships between schools, colleges, universities, such as Midwestern University. The plan itself, or the idea of a hospital in this location, will support the office development and the long-term economic vitality of the business park and Downers Grove. And then last but not least, we do have a sub-area plan in the Guiding DG plan. And with this one, it does encourage the completion of Esplanade, or getting closer to that goal and that recommendation. Staff does find that all the standards of approval have been met, and we do recommend approval of the 25 PZC 0040, and that draft motion can be found on page 14 of the agenda packet. And I'm certainly available for any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions for staff at this time? Anybody? Last call here for questions of staff. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this time we'll go back to the petitioner. You're not obligated to, but it's just an opportunity for you to respond to anything you've heard during public input or a staff report. So now would be the time if you'd like to do that. So you're shaking your head. No, I mean, so you're all good. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, with that, we'll go to deliberation up here. What do you want to start? Make any comments? Discuss? Mr. Lincoln?
Sure. Honestly, it just seems pretty straightforward.
I was just going to make one comment, general in nature. I was kind of surprised that we needed to go through this process just to add hospital. I just assumed that was an area that would make sense to have that already be there. So it's, and then I was noticing we had a list in our packet of the things that are allowed, and some of them are really specific. So it's just really odd that we put a lot of restrictions on a point of land that it would make sense to put like a regional hospital or all these other things. So more just general in nature. I think sometimes we lock ourselves in areas like that are really good for a lot of options, and we lock ourselves in and have to go through this process and delay them building, a really good regional hospital in Downers Grove because we have to go through these extra steps. So just like a little side comment, but I'm generally in support. I don't see anything that really, with the small changes, there's really nothing in the PUD requirements or nothing in the PUD criteria that doesn't match. I mean, it all seems pretty clear to me.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
I would agree with that. I mean, the criteria has been met. It's a fantastic addition to the community. It's great for surrounding towns. Also, perfect location right off the expressways. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. The job creation would be great. The improvements to the commercial areas would be a wonderful welcome improvement as well. So it's definitely a positive for us, and I am definitely in favor of it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments at this time? I'll just agree with what's been said already. And, as far as the use not being there to begin with, I think when this park was originally planned, I think it intended to have a lot of office use, and we all know the need for office space has changed quite a bit in the past 5 years or so. So it's left this opening for an opportunity like this. So it's looks like it's been reserved for this use, and it just kind of happened this way. I too intend to support this. I feel like it's a good fit, and I think the application was well put together, and I feel like the standards have been met as well. Do we else have any comments at this time?
I mean, I'll just add, I agree. I'll just add that healthcare as an industry, it's a good option to have right now. Many industries are changing, offices, space is changing, but healthcare is one of those where I think it sounds horrible, but like having a moment, so to speak. So I think it's a good option to have a hospital there.
Good, thank you. And I probably should mention too, we did receive a letter of support we just received this evening from the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, which is expressing their support as well. Okay, if there's no other comments, somebody ready to make a motion on this one?
I can make a motion.
Go ahead.
Based on the petitioner submittal, the staff report, and the testimony presented, I find that the petitioner has met the standards of approval for a planned unit development number 31 amendment as required by the Village of Downers Grove zoning ordinance and is in the public interest, and therefore I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to Village Council approval of 25-PZC-00, which will add hospital uses as an allowed use in PUD number 31.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Patel. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lincoln. Roll call?
All right, Patel,
Aye.
Lincoln,
Aye.
Frankovic,
Aye.
Toth,
Aye.
Rays,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Chairman Rickard.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay, that's recommended. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You do your thing.
Yeah, no, it recommended for approval unanimously. So as I said earlier, there will be another public hearing, another opportunity. If you'd like to show up and show support, or if you have additional comments or questions, you'll have another opportunity to do that. Just watch the Village Council agendas and you'll see when it comes up. So good luck and thank you.
And this case is tentatively scheduled for a first reading on the February 17th meeting with Village Council with a active agenda on March 3rd. Agendas are subject to change. Packets do come out the Friday afternoon before each Village Council meeting. If you have any questions, just call our office. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move into the second public hearing tonight, which is case 25-PZC-0022, which is 5112 through 5120 Forest Avenue and 1108 through 1118 Curtis Street. This is lot reconfiguration with a variance of special use, zoning map amendments, and a PUD. So with that, I'm not sure who's going to be doing the presenting. But if you want to come up, if you want to just introduce yourself for the record, and then the floor is yours. Yeah, the petitioner is Brownstone Homes Limited, and the owners are Brownstone Homes Limited and 1024 Division Commons LLC.
So my name's Don Brown and I am owner of Brownstone Homes. So the owner of the property, and I will be the developer builder on the project as well.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Casson. I'm a project coordinator. Let's get started. If I could just give you a little introduction of who we are. The investor developer team is made up of lifelong Downers Grove residents. They have deep roots in the community. They were raised here. They've raised their families here, and they love the downtown, and they're thrilled to be able to be a part of building something new here. This is not just a project on a long list. This is their home, and this project that we're about to present to you reflects that. Let's see. So this project was born on paper back in October 2024. It started as something small and has evolved into what we're about to show you. This is the overall site improvement plan. I'm going to go to the plat of survey. We're looking at 4 vacant commercial buildings on Forest between Gilbert and Curtis, as well as a small portion of land that's proposed to be subdivided from the adjacent lot that's known as 1108, 1114 Curtis. The piece of land, if you can see it well enough, it resembles a slice of pie, and at its widest point is about 30 feet wide. It's a very irregular shaped lot. The Curtis parcel is zoned downtown transition, and we are petitioning to rezone that to match the rest of the site, which is downtown core. The rezoning requires a variance due to its existing nonconformity, which exists because of the minimum lot area per dwelling unit. So if the variance is approved, that nonconformity will be slightly increased. The reconfiguration of the Curtis parcel allows us to create something cohesive that aligns with the comprehensive plan. The standards that we've met for that variance are found in the staff report. Let's get to the renderings. This rendering is looking at from the corner of Curtis and Forest. And this one is from from Forest and Gilbert. Let's get into meeting the design guidelines. We have met the design guidelines, and they are outlined in the project narrative of the staff report. We have the materials here at our fingertips. We can pass the bricks around if you would. One of the standout materials is the brick that we've chosen. It's a tumbled brick with a vintage feel, and it reminds me of the street pavers underneath the existing downtown streets. So it's a nod to the past in that respect. Another standout point is the inset balconies on the 2nd and 3rd floors. It helps the building not feel bulky because of its mass at 3 stories. We wanted to create residential character above, and we also pulled that down to the 2nd level, which we intend to be office space. And we think that those balconies, it pulls it together at the ground floor to bring rhythm and interest there at the street level. The large storefront windows on the 1st floor, they activate the sidewalk and they make the building feel welcoming, well-scaled, and there's a lot of new space for Halloween window painting opportunities there. The patio on the south end, which is not shown right there, but you can imagine where it would be. It's going to extend that restaurant space outdoors and create gathering spaces and promote everything that downtown is about. And then there's one more rendering. This is the southwest facing the rear of the building. There's some architectural renderings or elevations. Very hard to see up there, but they're all in the packet. Want to talk about how this project aligns with the Guiding GG comprehensive plan. The long version is in the staff report. We're not going to bore you with it, but as you look at how the development aligns with the plan, it almost seems like the plan was written based on this project. We're redeveloping an underused site into a mixed-use, pedestrian-focused, and transit-friendly development, strengthening downtown while respecting surrounding neighborhoods. These are some snapshots of the interior floor plans, including the underground garage. Moving on to the approval criteria, first being special use. We believe we have met the standards for special use. The residential special use is consistent with the comprehensive plan and in the public's best interest. Next up is the zoning map amendment. We believe we have met the standards for a zoning map amendment. The rezoning is consistent with the long-term development patterns of the area and provides a broader value to the community. Next, we believe we have met the standards for planned unit development. The proposed development will result in public benefits that are greater than those otherwise required by the existing regulations. Lastly, we believe we have met the standards for the zoning variance. The reconfiguration of the Curtis parcel allows us to create a cohesive development aligning with the comprehensive plan and is therefore in the best interest of the public. Let's see. These are just some photos of in 2024, what the site looks like. And this is a projection from the same angle. Again, 2024 photo, projection from the same angle. So as the sign outside the chambers reads about how Betty valued the balance between tradition and progress, we feel like this project reflects that with its design and intent. And we thank the staff, the planning and zoning staff, the commission for your consideration for the approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question about the deviation from the build to line or the build to zone. You know, you're set back a little bit further, and I thought I read that that's somewhat intentional to allow opportunities for uses of the sidewalk, like outdoor dining and those types of things. Is that accurate?
Yes, exactly. Yep. It makes that patio more practical and useful.
And also structurally wise, when the whole building was coming to a point, the structural engineer was having a hard time, like with steel, concrete and everything like that. So we pushed that back just to give you a little more like brace on the wall on the building itself. So that was another purpose little thing on that.
Any questions at this time for the petitioner? Ms. Franklin?
Regarding the parking situation, if you're going to have the 10 commercial units and you're only assigning 9 parking spaces to that, is the street parking then going to be specifically reserved for residents or commercial use?
No, we are not dedicating any or relying on any street parking for the tenants.
Okay, so there's 8 spaces going to be allotted for residential use, but only 9 spaces for 10 commercial units.
Yeah, I think the idea is that we're not counting on, you know, all of those tenants, those commercial tenants, to be driving there daily at the same time too. We're really focusing on the transit crowd.
Okay.
Just had a question.
So
The second and third floors will be exclusive to residential tenants. Is that right?
No, the second floor is office space and only the third floor is residential. It's only 6 units on the third floor. And they're extra large units on the third floor.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
So you have, okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So you have 6 residential units,
Correct.
10 office spaces. How big are those? Like how many
So the
people? do you
office
expect
spaces
working?
can be broken up. That the second floor can almost be, like, I know we already have a lawyer that's looking into doing the space and they want like 2,500 square feet.
Okay.
So you can break that up however we want with the building, so that it's just kind of designed out with those spaces.
Okay.
But whether they're larger or smaller, we'll be able to do that, during the permit process. So if someone wanted more space, you'll have to be able to have more space.
Okay.
So that second floor, you're gonna treat more like any other commercial office space. It's divisible and can be built out to accommodate whoever's interested.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And they're showing a
Yeah.
potential layout of
Right.
all smaller units to show the 10 office spaces, but it may be 2, maybe 5. who knows?
Right, exactly. We don't know who's going to come in and want to, rent the space. So
And it's 2 restaurants at the bottom?
on the bottom, it's 3 spaces right now, but it can also be, we have 1 dedicated restaurant space on the one end, on the left end, on the point end. And the other 2 spaces are going to they can be broken up however we want to. So right now, I believe they're both 1,800 square feet apiece, but those can be split in half to have 2 small shops, whatever. We're getting a lot of feedback. People want to lease the space on the first floor. Like a lot of people want to lease it. So we're just going to figure out what the best, case scenario is for everybody on that first level. Like on the far side, do we do like a, sandwich shop, something like that? So I mean, a lot of people, I know a Mexican restaurant was like a small Mexican restaurant was interested, stuff like that we've been approached by.
Yeah, the restaurant space is at the south end, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions from a petitioner at this time?
Just one small note, on your elevations, you have 2 different elevations here listed as the south elevation on your diagram. I believe one is probably the west elevation. The next one down.
that's the south one.
They're both listed as south, one's west, I think.
Oh, okay.
But the building coming to a point like that, so I don't know if that's the confusion on what the architect drew, but
Yeah, some of those walls are angled.
yes, yeah, it's kind of
So they pick a direction.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that upper one should be the west elevation, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay, anything else for the petitioner?
I have 2 more questions. Is there an intention to use the rooftop space for anything or tenants?
There's no rooftop space.
Okay. And then what, these residential units, are they going to be for sale or rental?
Rental.
Okay, what, do you have a price range in mind?
Like per unit?
Yeah.
Like I would say 4,000 a month, something like that. Because of the size of the units, that's where it's kind of different than a lot of the apartments. Most apartments in the area are, 1,300 square feet, depending on how many bedrooms they have, where some of these are up, as up to 2,000 square feet. So they're going to be very large units, 2-bedroom, full kitchen.
Bigger than a lot of the houses.
And I understand there's only 1 3-bedroom, is that correct?
Correct.
And then that's going to be in the same range, or is that much more?
That'll probably be a little bit more.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
We also have our traffic representative too. If you wanted to touch back
That'd be
on
great.
that. Yeah, if you wanted to follow up with her question.
Oh, that's fine. Please repeat your question. It was,
My question was in regards to the commercial units and the fact that there's only 9 parking spaces allotted
Yeah.
for 10 units.
right.
Yeah.
For the commercial use. So there is a lot of parking. Downers Grove has done a really good job at public parking in the garage to the east. I know I probably shouldn't have said that, right? You think after all these years I'd learn. So to the
We
east.
caught a little bit of a break there. Can you give us your name?
Yeah, sure. My name is Tim Doran. I'm the traffic consultant with Fish Transportation Group. I did a full traffic study on this in accordance with the village guidelines, and it was reviewed by the village, and we amended things that they wanted. But to the east is the parking garage, which had the whole second floor get a quarterly pass And that has plentiful parking. I've surveyed it and I've been up there, and that's for commercial parking with a quarterly pass. To the north is the trade stations, a whole bunch of different lots that have availability after 8:30 with a permit, and after 10 o'clock I believe it's 10 o'clock, open spaces. So, I mean, this is like 3,700 square feet of office. It's not huge, depending on how it's divided up, and about the same size in restaurant. So the restaurant, of course, the nice thing is the compatibility between the uses, restaurant versus office. They peak at different times. And we contemplated put that all in our traffic study. So we're confident of the 17 spaces. If so many are given out for the residential, that plus the area parking will be enough to accommodate it. That's the best I could say.
Approximately how many square feet is the restaurant space going to be?
3,700.
The restaurant's 3,700 square.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would hold about how many patrons roughly at maximum?
You know, it's interesting. I always like to put it in perspective is I do it by Starbucks. A typical Starbucks is 800 square feet. So it'd be 4 Starbucks. So within that, I'll be honest with you, Commissioner, I don't know how many seats there would be in there. But I like to put things in perspective, and everybody knows what Starbucks looks like on the inside.
Okay, thank you for that.
Any other questions at this time? Before we go to the public?
I have a question. Doing the traffic study, did you contemplate when the train is going by?
You know, for what? For what purpose? For capacity purposes and backing up on Forest. Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it does. I live in Glenview. It does in my town too. Anytime, we're blessed because we have trains, Metro, but we also suffer from that. And that's going to be periodic backups. Forest Avenue free flows right past Gilbert. It doesn't stop. Gilbert stops, Curtis stops, Forest, and it should free flow. That's the more important street. So it'll be backup once in a while during the peak hours. It will.
Anybody else at this time? Okay, we're going to go to the public. We'll give you an opportunity to come back after the staff report. Okay, is there anybody in the public who would like to speak regarding this project? As a reminder, if you could start off with your name for the record, it'd be appreciated.
Hello, my name is Chris West. I'm a adjacent property owner just west of the proposed development. First of all, I'd like to thank the developer. They did have an open house for some of the adjacent residents a month or so ago, and several of us attended, and in general, very much supportive of the project. I know one of the earlier renderings they had, the brick color was more orange. The quality of the brick, the red detail, the vintage, I think, definitely was vastly improved from the initial renderings that we saw in the limestone. I think it's a nice quality product. My big, from again, adjacent resident is any use restrictions on the restaurant relative to operating hours. And as it comes down south and we're on Curtis Street, just making sure there's some kind of, I don't know what the standard is within the city in the village right now, but just making sure that's not going to be spilling out onto our adjacent property area. Also talked about a little bit with the traffic control. I know right now, as was it just indicated, Gilbert stops, Curtis stops, but Forest is free flowing. It's already kind of challenged right now, who's stopping, who's not, right there by the library parking lot, and just whether there needs to be any enhanced controls there relative to pedestrian safety crossing Forest between Gilbert and on Gilbert over to the library parking lot. And then last thing I had was just the timing on it. Right now, we do have the 4 vacant residences, former businesses that were there, and they're in a state of disrepair, and just relative to safety conditions, relative to the structures themselves coming down, and or homeless or whatever on the property, and just making sure it's a safe environment there, and whether that can be accelerated during any of the process to help clear that land and make it a safer visual. But I think overall, again, very supportive of the project. I think it does a nice job framing out the block, and it's consistent with some of the other buildings that are going up right now with the mixed use with the residential.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who'd like to speak? Good evening again.
Good evening, Marshall Schmidt again. There are a lot of problems, I think, with this proposal, but I want to focus on one in particular, and that's traffic and parking. The notion that there's plenty of parking in Downers Grove is really laughable, as you could tell by the response from the audience. The fact is that this area, since the Burlington Station went up, parking is impossible. And yeah, sometimes it's periodic, but if you're going to the library, you cannot find a parking spot. People drive around constantly trying to find a place to park. And the presentation made clear that the developer doesn't even know what parking they're going to need because they don't know how many businesses are going to be in it. They don't know how many restaurants are going to be in it. And the notion that you add, 20 spots when you're adding all these offices and up to 3 restaurants makes no sense. If you allow them to build this in this form, you're going to have massive traffic jams. To address the last person's comment about traffic control, you have a very short block between Gilbert and the train. When the train comes, that backs up. And I'll remind people, they're emphasizing that they live here. They may not recall that a stop sign had to be added in front of the First Congregational Church because someone was killed on that intersection because traffic is, it's a key artery in downtown. And even the traffic study admitted that traffic will increase by 1 to 2 cars per minute. Think about during rush hour when the trains are coming, those trains stop for a minute or two. You're adding additional traffic to an area that's already congested where parking is at a premium. The plan may work, but not in its current form. It will create a parking and traffic disaster in that part of town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look at how he's back. Pardon the purple smoke blowing out of my head. All I want to say is, seriously? What the heck are we thinking, folks? Something like that in that location we're having enough trouble with parking downtown. And anybody who says it's not a parking problem hasn't been downtown for a while. It's ridiculous. It backs up because of the umpteen trains, well, more than 100, whatever we have. The freight trains and the commuter trains and Amtrak or whatever. We've got that location, unless they're going to take over the parking lot at the library, which is full all the time now. And if you don't believe me, drive by there every once in a while. People are always complaining, you can't find a place to park. Now you're talking about a building, you're going to have what? 1 floor, 6 units of residential. And then if the one on the second floor is going to be office space? Well, I doubt very much they're going to have 1 person per office. They're going to have probably 2 or 3 cars at least. And I don't know where they're going to park. And then restaurants on the end of it. Well, we've seen the restaurants downtown have pretty much taken over downtown, including the public sidewalks, for God's sake. You can't even walk down the sidewalks without tripping over a chair or a table. And now we're just going to multiply the congestion in this downtown area. I think it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And what's it going to take for you folks to realize, well, what's enough is enough? People get to the point they come to Downers Grove, you can't find a place to park, they're going to go somewhere else. I know I would. This absolutely is not good for this location. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Teresa Schultz. I own a commercial real estate practice in town called Schultz Properties. I was involved in this transaction. I was involved with the sale of one of the properties, and I was there were many buyers that were looking at taking this on, some that were not going to do any work on the one property that is in full disrepair. I've had others that had dreams of doing all residential on all levels and really putting some dense building onto this lot. I met Don Brown, and he had a vision that I was very excited for. And that was to have a level of office space in town and have the desire to build something that fit in to what aesthetically looks great in the community. So I'm speaking because I am firsthand very involved in commercial estate in town. I represent a large amount of commercial tenants that are looking for both retail space and commercial and office space in town, and we do not have it. Right now on the south side of the tracks, there is no vacancy for retail. And the last couple vacancies I was able to fill soon as I knew the tenant was leaving, because there is that demand for retail in town. There's also demand for restaurant space in town. We know that it's an incredible community. The challenge is also having office space in town. There is, that I'm aware of, maybe 3 spaces in town, of which none of them have been built in the last 10, 15 years, ADA compliant. And I have Class A office tenants that are looking at moving into the community, and we don't have the space. So when Don talked with me about his idea of having a second floor Class A office, we don't have it. And I've talked about this in many discussions amongst the Downtown Management Board. I've addressed this with EDC about how we have a lack of inventory at our downtown. So as we look at this project, I'm proud that we have someone that's presenting to you that is providing to you office space that we don't have. And we're not required, from my understanding, to have on-site parking for office. And the groups that I represent in town don't care, and they recruit from the city. That is a big demand, is to be along the train line. So as I do a study as a professional to find these groups space along the train line, it doesn't exist. I don't want to say it doesn't exist. We don't have it, but they're also looking at Hinsdale, where they are starting to have some of that. And in downtown Naperville, if I can bring that to our community, it brings more daytime traffic. It helps with the restaurants and the different retailers that are looking for some walking traffic. And I do hope you support it for many of the features that did a wonderful job presenting. But to know that downtown Downers Grove as a commercial district needs this type of space, because we don't have it. On a second note, there's been so much concentration on being on Main Street that we just also have to open up our commercial district just a little bit. And Forest is commercial, and to be able to sports, when you expand the boundaries and bring more commercial on the outskirts that are not 100% residential, which no one's built right now in the last 10 years, have they brought in the office component? It helps all the boundaries and helps the other businesses also make some money. So the walking traffic expands. And as a last note on parking, there is that lot just north of the building that no one really knows about. And I am successful at always finding parking there. And that is a hidden parking space that I think will be really good and conducive for the employees that are looking at a permit or that don't want to walk to the parking garage. And I think we have to put that on the map as well. So I hope you support it. I think it's a great project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak regarding this petition? Good evening.
Good evening, Janet Winningham again. This is insane. The parking for a restaurant, according to your 2019 parking study, requires 45 spaces per restaurant. You don't have that anywhere. But when you get to staff, you get to customers, you get to management and owners that are coming in and looking for parking spaces, where are they going to park? They're going to park in the library lot and the lot across the street from the library. There is not enough parking now. You cannot get into the library. I went there today to shop at Anderson's. After 3 o'clock, the well-kept and I'll disclose secret is there's a zoning or a loading zone space after 3 o'clock, right on the side of the building. You can get that space on occasion. The rest of it is full. You are punishing the residents. I don't know what community benefits there are. You are punishing the residents who want to come downtown and use the library. And the parking garage is not an answer to a commercial endeavor on Forest. It's too far. People are not going to walk that far. People are going to take the easy way out. The residents, where are their guests going to park? They're going to park in the library lots like the Burlington Station people do. So when are you going to stick up for the community residents who want to use the amenities downtown? This is, the pattern has been to overbuild, create density that is unworkable, and punishes the folks who are entitled to use parking, entitled to come downtown and use the amenities, and you're just taking it away hand over fist. So the building, it's okay. I mean, from what it looks like, but it is too dense, it is too big, and I think you should start standing up for the residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak? Anybody? Last chance to speak on this petition? Okay, hearing none. Staff report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Flora Leon. I'm the senior planner with the Village of Downers Grove. I just briefly wanted to share that I'm coming up on 8 years with the village, and I just really wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here tonight. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, the petition before you tonight, I've listed the two addresses. The range is 5112 to 5120 Forest Avenue. And then we also have 1108 through 1118 Curtis Street. The entitlements include a request for a lot reconfiguration with the variance, a special use, a zoning map amendment, and a plan unit development. Case number 25 PZC0022. On this first slide, I provided the location map for your review. As you know, the property is located on the west side of Forest Avenue between Gilbert and Curtis Street. The property at 5112 through 5120 Forest is currently zoned DC, downtown core. These properties were previously occupied by commercial tenants. The address range 1108 through 1118 Curtis Street, those are zoned DT, downtown transition. The property is currently occupied and will continue to be occupied by a multifamily building. Here I provided just some photos of the notice signs that were posted at the subject site. All noticing requirements were met, and this includes mailed notices, publishing in the newspaper, and then posting these signs at the subject site. From this noticing, staff did receive one phone call, and it was general in nature. I also wanted to highlight that, as required by the zoning ordinance, the petitioner did hold a neighborhood meeting on December 17th, 2025. You can find a summary of that neighborhood meeting on page 39 of the overall agenda packet. On this next slide, I thought it would be helpful to list out all of the entitlement requests, and I've numbered them just for reference in case you all have any questions. We can go back to the specific one that you would like to discuss. We have number 1, the lot reconfiguration with the variance. Number 2, the zoning map amendment. Number 3, the final plan unit development. Number 4, the zoning map amendment. And then finally, number 5, the special use. All right, so with the first request, we have the variance for the lot reconfiguration. Here I provided, I had the overall kind of aerial, and then I overlaid the proposed lot consolidation plat. And then for reference, I highlighted kind of the boundary of the overall site in yellow for your review. Here is the property line that's being proposed to be shifted over. It's the shared property line between the Curtis and that forest property. So the proposal is to shift it over west, and that's the new property line that would be proposed. And then I also wanted to highlight that there is one non-conforming item associated with this lot reconfiguration. So the existing development at 1108 through 1118 Curtis Street, that's the photo that you're seeing on this slide here. It does not currently meet the minimum lot area per dwelling unit requirements for the downtown transition zoning district. For the zoning ordinance, the community development director is only able to approve lot reconfigurations administratively when lot reconfigurations will not increase the degree of a nonconformity. Because the lot area is decreasing with this lot reconfiguration, you'll notice that the lot area per dwelling unit that's associated is also decreasing. So that nonconformity, the existing nonconformity, is increasing. I did want to mention again that nothing else will be changing for the 1108 through 1118 property. All the existing structures will remain in place. On this note, I wanted to also share that staff is supportive of this variation request. The lots, as you can see, are irregularly shaped, and the angled property line results kind of in a triangular shaped lot. If the variation is granted, a more meaningful development can occur for the overall downtown. Okay, number 2, the zoning map amendment. So here's that lot line that is proposed to be pushed over to the west. If the lot reconfiguration with a variation is approved, the next request would be to rezone this section that you're seeing here from DT to DC, downtown core. Number 3, the final plan unit development. So now you're seeing in this slide that section going from DT to DC. And then the next step would be to propose a plan unit development, which is what you're seeing here in the white and kind of navy color. You're seeing the boundary for that overall plan unit development. Simultaneously, what would also occur is that the request to rezone the property would include a rezoning from DC to DC/plan unit development. And then finally, item number 5, we have the request for the special use for apartments in the downtown core zoning district. Okay, so here's the overall site plan. You'll notice that I rotated it. So the north side is now on the right side. As you know, Gilbert's facing north. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and walk through some of the proposed improvements. All right, so in yellow, I've highlighted the overall building footprint. In red, I highlighted the entrance to the parking garage off of Gilbert. So the zoning ordinance requires a total of 8 parking stalls for the 6 dwelling unit proposal. Along the interior, the proposal includes 8 dedicated parking spaces for these units. The ordinance only requires parking for these residential units. Commercial uses such as offices, retail, and restaurants are not required to include parking in the downtown core zoning district. However, the petitioner is including an additional 9 parking stalls. And as the petitioner indicated, there are also adjacent parking lots that can absorb some of the necessary parking in the area as well. As you know, a traffic impact study was included with the petition, and staff does find that we concur with the findings of that study. On the site plan again, the loading zone is highlighted in purple. Then there are 2 additional on-street parking spaces that will be added back in. There are currently 2 on site. In the orange, I've highlighted the new sidewalk along Forest Avenue. And then I've sprinkled in the location of the seat walls. And I wanted to highlight that that falls in line with the guiding DG streetscapes plans. Those are specifically called out. And then in green, I've also sprinkled in the bike racks that are called out in our active transportation plan, also part of the guiding DG comprehensive plan efforts. Next, in blue along Gilbert, you'll notice a 10-foot wide shared use path that's being proposed. That falls in line too with our active transportation plan. And then in the gray there along Curtis Street, I wanted to highlight the proposed outdoor dining patio. Since we're on the site plan, I also wanted to briefly note the requested deviations. There was a table in the overall staff report. So in the asterisks, I wanted to highlight here, the petitioner is requesting a deviation from the build-to zone along Curtis, the corner build-to zone right there at Curtis and Forest Avenue, and then the corner build-to zone at Gilbert and Forest. So the build-to zone in the zoning ordinance is really wanting to have the building pulled to the front to kind of hold that corner. And as the petitioner indicated, they're hoping to activate the street with that outdoor dining area. And so along the Curtis side, that's why you're seeing that building kind of pulled back. On the Gilbert side, the reason the building is sort of clipped off at the corner there is due to grading. So they've incorporated sidewalk connections there, and they were trying to meet ADA compliance on that side. And then the final item, kind of closer to Gilbert, there is a transformer. They're asking to deviate from the required 5-foot minimum setback, and they're providing a 1-foot minimum setback in hopes to kind of not make it such a visible feature. And now we can take a look at some of the renderings. So for the next 3 slides, I'll keep the site plan on the right-hand side, and then I provided kind of like a black triangle to give you an idea of where you're standing on the site. So this is on Curtis looking northwest. So this is kind of a secondary entry point. There's one on the northeast and southern facade. On this side, you're seeing this kind of cast stone that's starting from the bottom, going all the way to the very top. And in between, what you're seeing is kind of like this decorative brickwork. And then on the bottom there, I also kind of wanted to highlight the boundaries of that outdoor patio, along with the proposed seat walls, so that you can kind of start to see the design intent in terms of wanting to establish that pedestrian scale at the corner. So here we're on Gilbert Avenue looking southwest. There is visual interest on both facades with the balconies across the building. I wanted to highlight that the primary building entry is actually facing Forest Avenue. It's emphasized through a use of cast stone from the first floor entry all the way up to the building cornice. The entry is then capped with an awning and framed with broader articulation, kind of creating that distinct and inviting entry point to the building. And then at the intersection too, I wanted to highlight that cast stone is also used. And then there's also an awning kind of helping to shield pedestrians from the elements. Finally, on kind of the Curtis Street looking northeast, I wanted to highlight some of the bands that are carried all throughout all facades of the building. And then I also wanted to highlight that the brick is wrapping around the entire building, and that kind of helps create that smooth transition between the single and multifamily neighborhoods that are adjacent. Here I've provided the downtown design guidelines for your review. As you know, the guidelines are divided into separate sections as shown on the right here. The proposed development does incorporate several features that adhere with these guidelines. You can find a summary of the compliance on page 29 of the overall agenda packet. That's table 5. The next few slides I've dedicated to the comprehensive plan. Overall, staff does find that the proposed request is consistent with the guiding DG comprehensive plan. I will just highlight some of the sections of the plan and some notes that really stand out here. So within the plan, we do have a focus area plan that calls for continued investment in the downtown. Specifically, it states that there should be an expansion and diversification of retail, entertainment, and dining options. It calls to implement the guiding DG streetscape plan. It specifically calls out for mixed-use developments along with multifamily that is located in significant activity centers. That section of the plan also indicates that infill development should be pedestrian-oriented. Again, it calls out for a mix of land uses, storefronts, gathering areas, as well as compliance with the downtown design guidelines. In the section dedicated to land use and development, the plan encourages multiple transportation options, redevelopment to meet housing and economic development needs, as well as, again, calling out for mixed use areas. Within this same section, there's also, again, just kind of thinking about infill and looking at residential and commercial uses. It specifically calls out offices alongside commercial corridors, and again, this idea of mixed-use developments. Within the housing and neighborhood sections of the plan, it does call out establishing a variety of housing, encouraging new construction, and integrating residential, retail, and dining options. All this to say that development should continue to align with the existing scale of the established neighborhoods. Within the economic development section of the comprehensive plan, it does encourage high density reinvestment and revitalization, along with a mixture of shops, restaurants, and high density residential uses. So shifting gears into the standards of approval, I provided the standards for a variance. Staff does find that these 9 items have been met. Here I provided the special use criteria for your review. These 4 items staff does believe have also been met. Here are the criteria for the zoning map amendment. Staff finds that those have been met as well. And then finally, I provided the plan unit development criteria for your review. Staff finds that all standards of approval have been met, and we do recommend approval of 25 PZC 0022. A draft motion is available for your review on page 34 of the overall agenda packet. If you all have any questions, I'd be happy to take those now.
I have a question.
Mhm.
You know, we hear all the time when these types of things come forward about, you know, parking and traffic are always the concerns that, you know, residents have. Not just residents, but, you know, some people have a lot of concerns about it. And the village recently did a pretty extensive traffic study when they were considering construction of a parking garage, you know, a second parking garage somewhere. And I guess what I'm asking is, the outcome of that was the city decided or determined after doing these studies that there wasn't, it wasn't warranted yet. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would be more than happy to answer that too. So the effort you're referencing, there was a parking study that was completed in 2019. There was recommendations that were starting to be looked at, but with COVID, everything ceased to move forward on that, especially because we needed to understand the different traffic commuting patterns that have developed since that time. Since that time, we also did Guiding DG. Guiding DG was our multifaceted planning effort that took place over the last 2 years. As part of that study, we not only looked at the comprehensive plan, and I'll get to that in a second, but also streetscape, active transportation, and sustainability. So with all 4 of those plan efforts, there is not a recommendation to place another parking garage in the downtown. What the guiding DG plan does say, and I'm looking at it right now, is that we should look at real-time parking count displays and improve signage. That was also the same recommendation that came out of the 2019 study that we did not move forward with. So improving that signage to direct customers, visitors, residents on where there is available parking in the downtown is a recommendation that is in the plan, and that is something that we'll be looking at with the future CIP project, otherwise known as the Community Investment Program.
And it also seems like it's somewhat intentional that these types of developments, especially in this district in the downtown, are pedestrian oriented and try to encourage other modes of transportation and really not make this an auto-centric type zone. So hence the fact that there are no parking requirements for a lot of these uses in the building other than the residential.
That is correct, Chairman. So this might have been glossed over, but there is no parking requirements for commercial uses with the exception of medical office. That is the only caveat for those types of uses. Residential does require, so that's the 1.4 parking spaces per unit, but every development with the current zoning ordinance that has come through has not required additional parking to serve those uses because of the public parking that's available in the village. As noted by the petitioner and with Flora, there is additional parking that is being provided on this one. Again, not required by code, but effectively an additional amenity that could be used by potential tenants of this building.
Yeah, so I mean, technically they have a little bit more parking here than what's actually required by code.
That's correct.
The 17 spots internal, correct? There's 17 total.
Yes, correct.
Questions for staff? I got a question for Todd.
Regarding parking at the library, are there regular enforcement activities to catch people parking there unlawfully?
There is enforcement activities. We do have a community service officer that does serve the downtown, looks at such things as when individuals park past their time or overnight parking. If this is an issue, we've always encouraged this, is that it can contact our police departments to investigate that. And there is an officer that is out there every day, at least 5 days a week to manage that.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff, Mr. Lincoln?
All right.
I'll get to you next.
I kind of had a question about the parking too, but I think it was mostly answered because it was basically trying to figure out, if we develop this just as a single story building using the zoning that already exists, they could literally put in businesses without us having all this relief, and they would be not required to have any new parking spaces. So I think if I'm understanding that correctly, and we're almost like net gaining parking spaces over if we had a lower intensity use that was just first floor businesses.
If it was a use that was allowed by right, that's correct. An entitlement would not be needed.
So yeah, so in some ways it's almost moot to this because we're adding more spaces than, well. The other one is there was a comment about the second floor of the parking garage. So I mean, whenever I've tried to find parking away from that floor, I totally agree that it's starting to get harder and harder to find spaces. But the second floor is kind of a special because it's for downtown and they have to pay. Is there any figures on that? What's the utilization of the second floor with the permitting for businesses? Do we know?
That's tracked by our village manager's office. I don't have the recent percentages over there. It is our understanding there still is available DB passes. That would be, and DB is the parking designation for those. And so you can use those on the second story of the parking garage. Forest Lot North allows DB spaces. And I also believe the parking lot on the north side of the tracks also allows those DB passes. DB passes could be used up till, I believe 3 p.m. And then generally all parking is available to the public after 3 o'clock in most areas over there too.
But at least, I'm assuming that before this got this far in the process, we wouldn't be even talking about it if there was no more permit spaces left on the second floor. I
I know we don't have the exact figures, but I feel like it's somewhat kind of important to this case since we are going to be relying on that for the offices, that there's going to be those spaces left.
That's correct.
So they don't end up on the other floors that are already getting kind of full. And then I guess my only other comment was, do we have anything in the code that allows us to enforce restaurant operation hours on particular parcels?
There's no limits to operations for restaurants or any businesses in the village. They would be expected to have the same rule book as the other restaurants that are located in downtown.
Mr. Reyes?
Just to clarify the parking, 17 spaces, 6 are reserved for residents. 6 would be reserved for residents that live in the development.
8.
8. So then you have 9 left for offices, restaurants.
Correct.
Okay. That's it.
And I guess just a comment, I think, is it true that it's somewhat by design because of all the amenities that are around here? Trains, buses go through here pretty regularly, and all the kind of amenities that are geared towards the transportation type amenities are what allow parking requirements for these uses in these districts to be reduced like they are, in some cases to be 0. That's just kind of what these downtown areas are determined to be. I mean, most big cities, they don't have internal parking lots. You encourage people to get out and get on foot. And I mean, perfect example, we've had these regulations for quite a while, and we have several new developments over recent years in town that have a lot of residential components and restaurant uses on the ground floor. And with these parking requirements, these places are all still full. These people are getting there, and these places are all full. So it seems that the parking regulations and requirements in these districts for these uses seem to be working. I mean, I'll agree parking is a little, you've got to circle around if you want to find a spot, that's super close, but there are opportunities out there, and some of them require a little bit of walking. And that's the nature of downtown areas. You're not going to park in front of the front door of every place that you want to go. That's not the purpose of that.
Yeah, and I would just add, with your initial comments about the design intent for the downtown, really focusing in on that like pedestrian scale. That's also why you're seeing that that shared use path, that 10-foot wide shared use path on Gilbert Avenue. It's why it was incorporated in our active transportation plan. It's why you're seeing the bike racks and the seat walls and all those features that bring the scale down.
I believe that there are times where if you go to a large shopping area or a mall and you go there to go to a restaurant or go somewhere, depending on how full that parking lot is, oftentimes you're walking farther within that parking lot to that location than you would from like the parking garage to here.
In that 29 parking study, there's actually an interesting diagram that was placed on like where the average person could park in the Yorktown Shopping Center. And then what that distance is going to be moving from the surface parking lot to the mall itself. In a lot of cases, much larger distance on where folks are parking in our downtown. So that is featured in that study too, to address your points.
Yeah, other questions for staff? Mr. Lincoln?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a smaller question. Maybe it's slightly more of a hypothetical. So the southern end where we're looking for relief for the build to zone. And just to make sure I understand correctly, the build to zone is because it's the downtown core. We want the building theoretically to be like right up to the sidewalk. We're not doing that because of the kind of the plaza for this hypothetical restaurant. One of the concerns we've heard before, not at this meeting, is that restaurants are starting to overflow into like the sidewalk and it's making it harder to walk around. I mean, conceivably, if we didn't allow this build to zone requirement, then the tables, or if they did any outdoor dining, would be like further onto the sidewalks. This is a little bit more to allow a very specific area a little off the sidewalk for that.
Right, to designate an outdoor dining area without encroaching into the public sidewalk.
Okay. That was the only one I missed from earlier.
Yeah, and I had asked about that build to zone earlier. my opinion is that this building pretty much covers the whole side of that block. If there are other buildings on that block that were built to the build-to zone, and they were asking to set theirs back, kind of interrupting that street wall down the sidewalk, to me, might struggle with that, but this building goes the entire length of the block and is set back kind of consistently. So I don't necessarily view that as a negative or a problem. Since this thing does cover the entire block. But were there any other purposes for? I mean, generally the build-to zone is to kind of create a street wall, and have some consistency on these blocks, correct?
But that's correct. We also have portions of our code too that does allow a certain portion of an open space or a patio in this case.
Yeah.
To be in that built-to zone, because we also want to activate a street wall or streets.
Right.
And outdoor dining does do that with certain limitations to make sure that street wall is not interrupted. But obviously with this one, a slightly different case of the irregular shape of the lots and be able to activate that space and even keep some of that sitting off of the public sidewalk is a potential benefit to the community.
And the village traffic person reviewed this, and I didn't see that they had any negative comments, that they were recommending approval of this or didn't have any issue with it as proposed, correct?
That's correct. Our transportation manager reviewed the traffic study and didn't have any outstanding items with it.
You had a question earlier. You
Yeah,
had a question
I'm
earlier
good,
then.
yeah.
Any other questions for staff at this time? No? Okay, we'll go back to the petitioner. Kind of heard all the comments and discussion out there, so this is just an opportunity for you to, not obligated to, it's just an opportunity if you choose to respond to anything that's been said so far. Not necessarily introducing new information at this point, but just to kind of respond to comments that have been made to this point. You're all good, Ed?
Yeah, I'm pretty good on that. Yeah, with what was said. So I agree with the parking situation with the library.
All right, if you are going to talk, I need you to come up here.
So I do agree with the library parking lot. And I also agree that there should be a second parking garage somewhere in that area in the future. I've lived here my whole life. So, but with that said, is that the library, you try to go to the library and there's always spots first thing in the morning, it's already full. So I don't know what that, like with the police policing it, I don't know if they're doing a great job with that because it is very early. But that behind Burlington Station, that lot is open all the time. There's always spots back there all day long. So that's the whole purpose of our building, is to be able to park back there. And I think would be fine with that. So, but that's it.
Okay.
So, all right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion up here. Mr. Reyes, go ahead.
I'll jump right in. Just because we designed something to be pedestrian and we want it to be pedestrian doesn't mean it's gonna be. Like most of us still drive to downtown, and the parking is a real situation. Before we heard comments, I wrote it down because I lived it. You go to that parking lot in the library and it's impossible to find a space. Several times during the day, you drive around several times. You eventually find one, but it's a real problem. And I know that what's currently there doesn't require spaces, so it's not like we're losing, but we're adding a lot of movement there and a lot of density there. We're having people live there, people work there, and people go there to restaurants. So there's going to be a need for more parking. So I can see the problem getting worse. I understand that it's not required because we want downtown to be walkable, but it doesn't mean people are going to walk there necessarily. I feel like the parking is still a real problem that we have to consider.
Anybody else?
I would concur with that. And I think that this building in general is just too aggressive. It's too dense for this area. I think it's pushing the limits too far, considering what we already have. Everybody knows that there's issues with parking even on the street if you're trying to park on the other side of the library. The commercial lots don't really change that situation. Another part is, we are in a situation where we need affordable housing in the village, and I don't feel the price points of these units fit anywhere within that realm. On top of that, I think that when you take into consideration retail businesses, traffic, the commercial tenants, if they have their clients coming to them, you have to take into all of that on top of the restaurant space. That's a lot of cars and potentially cars. And as much as we would like for people to bike and walk, and they probably will start to more often, it's not happening right now. And this building is going to take that place right now, which is going to create a problem right now. So that needs to be dealt with in the now, not in the future. So I think at this point in time, I don't think this is the right development for the area. And if it is to be the right development, it needs to be downsized.
Anybody else? I think it's a very thoughtful design, and I think the reduced massing works very well. As far as like Commissioner Lincoln said, is allowing for some of that outdoor dining space, so people are not encroaching further upon the sidewalks and everything, which I think a few people commented on. Give me a minute. I have more thoughts to go here. They've met the requirements for parking. And I do understand everyone's concerns with parking. I live here. I go downtown to eat and shop quite frequently. And yeah, it's like Commissioner Ricker said, it's the chairperson Ricker. It's not always immediately available right where you want to go, but you'll find parking. I went out to a restaurant in down on Saturday. I had to drive around once, but I found parking. Wasn't too far away. I think the current use is very unattractive, and I think it would, for me, this would be a welcome improvement to the area.
Can I just add to my previous comment that I don't think the criteria has been met, because I do think it would be detrimental to the surrounding businesses and residences. And that's my reasoning for that.
I agree with Commissioner Toth that I like this design, and I think it's appropriate for its use and its function in downtown. And I think that's the nature of downtown. It's supposed to be pedestrian centric. And I disagree that parking doesn't exist. I believe parking is there. It may not be immediately adjacent to the restaurant that you're choosing or the commercial business that you want to visit. But I think that's just how downtown is designed. And in my opinion, I believe the standards have been met, and I do support this.
Mr. Barry?
While I agree most of the kind of the pedestrian and biking thing is somewhat aspirational versus reality at this point, and maybe we'll get there sometime. But I don't think relative in parking at the library is a nightmare. I try to go to the library all the time. That being said, however, is this building moving the needle to any great extent? I really don't think it is. They're complying with the ordinance relative to what parking is required. So it's not, I don't think it's not going to be a positive impact on parking, but I think that's a broader issue looking at downtown parking than going after this individual project here with, 6 units and they actually have parking spots that are not required. So again, I understand everybody's concern about it, but I think they've done the best they could with what we have here on this irregular lot. So I think it's actually a pretty nicely done proposition here.
Yeah, I echo that, Commissioner Barry. As a cyclist, one of the things I was most excited about in the comprehensive plan was better infrastructure and ways for not only folks that are older like myself, but younger folks can kind of move throughout the community. And as that comprehensive plan comes into fruition, we should expect pedestrian and cycling traffic to increase as well, as some of that pressure is coming off from the cars. I also want to acknowledge the public comment around the office space and how that would bring folks potentially from the city, right? Offsetting, some of those spaces and the need for parking with walkability from the train as well. So I agree. It's a very thoughtful petition, and I support it.
Mr. Lincoln?
Yeah, conflicted for a lot of reasons, but what's probably like the concern over traffic, it's like, and parking, yes, it's like you're not moving the needle very much, but we're not moving the needle very much every single time we do this. It's the aggregate. So it's like, I'm trying to weigh that. It's like, sure, it's this one building's only adding a few, but it's like we do that every single building and then they all add up to where we are. So it's such a struggle there. The problem with the parking sounds like it's an enforcement issue with the library, because same thing happens to me. I try to get there right when it opens and it's like, where did all these cars come from? There's clearly not this many people in the library. So it's like, there's an enforcement thing that's separate. And the thing that it's like almost like a technicality. The parking was one of my biggest things before I even came to the meeting, but then the way it was explained, even without us being here discussing it, they could put in a smaller building and meet all the guidelines. We wouldn't be here reviewing all these things we're reviewing, and they wouldn't be required to add any parking whatsoever. So we're actually gaining a net number of spaces over what's required, which is like even though I think it's not enough parking, and like I think parking's a concern and it could cause issues, I'm also kind of concerned that we don't know about the specific number of spaces we have left in the garage on the second floor for this. Like, that's kind of a concern. I think that's kind of stuff we need to be keeping track of every single one of these. That being said, is like, it's kind of moot. And then a lot of the relief, the things, it's such a long list. That was my other thing, such a long list of relief. But a lot of them are just actually pretty small. It's a very irregular lot. How are we going to build anything with that weird corner? So even in just ignoring this building, it's like we almost need to correct that to allow there to be some kind of reasonable development. So those are pretty straightforward, and a special use for an apartment in the downtown core, that's pretty standard. So it's, that we build apartments downtown all the time. So it's like, I'm looking at the actual things of relief, and there's really only one kind of in our purview tonight that has to do with adding more parking. And I guess that's really the lot area per dwelling unit, because they're not asking for relief related to parking. And the build to zone stuff is relatively minor and is all really well explained. And so about the only place I'm falling on is that maybe we could say they need to reduce the number of units, of like living space, but then that reduces the requirement of parking. And we're in this catch-22, because you say, well, we don't need to have that many units for living. And now you have even a lower requirement for parking, and we're still in the same exact spot we were at before. So I'm kind of leaning towards yes, but there's just a lot of stuff with this. I mean, totally understand all the concerns with parking. I run into it all the time. Eventually I do find a space. It's really more of a time issue and a hunting issue. I'm not exactly sure I 100% agree that we don't need another parking garage downtown, but at least looking for the things that are being requested for relief, I think looking at those very specifically, it does look like we're meeting the requirements, even though overall, I'm not sure about the building, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on this are, the project that they're proposing is put together based on our regulations and our design standards. And this is exactly the type of thing that our plans and ordinances are asking for in these areas. And it's clearly acknowledged all throughout the comprehensive plan, and this, especially in the downtown, that it is intentionally very pedestrian focused and alternative transportation modes. And it's not like our ordinances and documents are outdated. They were just updated after spent a lot of money and time and a lot of professionals involved in determining that, yes, these are good, solid standards. And I understand not everybody agrees, but the reality, all of these, what I call suburban urban areas, these little suburbs that have downtowns, they are by design becoming more dense because they're financially more productive. And there's something about areas that are where you don't have as much automobile traffic. And I believe that the market decides if there's enough parking there or not. If there's not, and everybody wants to drive there, then they won't go there. They could go out to kind of the surrounding areas, but downtown areas are designed to be dense. They're not designed for rush hour traffic to flow through there. I live on Main Street just north of here, and I see the traffic all day, every day. And there are times that it backs up. but people are choosing to drive through there. They're not all going to the downtown. They're rush hour. They're going to work or coming out of work. And I live just north of downtown. And if I got to go south, I don't drive down Main Street through downtown. I go over a few blocks and circle around. Sometimes I go all the way to Belmont and go around, and it's faster and it's less aggravating. But I feel like this proposal is doing exactly what our documents are asking them to do. And they meet the parking requirements, and the market will decide if these offices get leased. You know, if people need parking and there's not enough parking there, they're not going to sign a lease. They're not going to rent there. And if people want to drive and park within 20 yards of this restaurant and they won't go. And then the restaurant won't be successful. It won't be around very long. But we have these same rules applied in our existing downtown, and every restaurant down there is packed all the time. And I occasionally go through the garage and I see spots. Very rarely have I gone through the parking garage and it's packed 100% full. I feel like they're, I think there are a lot of people who don't like to walk a little bit or use other forms of transportation, and that's fine and that's okay. There are alternatives. There are other places to go, but I feel like this proposal meets the standards, and this is what we're telling all developers out there that we want. We're asking for more of this. All our documents say that in these areas, this is what we want. We can argue about aesthetics or whatever, but this is exactly what we're asking people to do. I have a hard time not supporting it, based on that. As far as some of the deviations and relief they're looking for, I feel like the adjustment to the property line at the south end kind of enhances this. I understand that, it creates a couple of other little issues, but I think the bigger issue is the street corner. And this, I think, makes that corner at Curtis and Forest, I think it improves it greatly. And it's a nice little stretch of the block that I think is going to be more desired than what's there now. It's going to be more utilized, and it's going to be financially more productive than what's there now. I think that's all I have to say.
You put it better than I could. I wish I had.
Yeah, I forgot one thing at the end of even with my concerns, I will say one thing that I thought was a net negative is the office spaces, even without the comment from the realtor. I was thinking the same thing. We do need a mixture, and it seems like we're either all in on restaurants or all in on apartments. And I was worried that this was going to be more apartments than it ended up being, and then having a little bit of a mixture, I think, is certainly better for the downtown area. But overall, I'm still really conflicted with it. But I did want to point out that one aspect really struck me in a positive way, because I do think we need a little bit more of a mixture downtown. I did want to mention that quickly.
Anybody have anything less, Mr. Reyes?
I'll just say that I agree that this is the kind of development we want. I just echoing Commissioner Frankowicz's point, I feel like it's trying to be too much for the capacity that's there. And yes, the businesses might not work if people really want that much parking, but now we have this building that we approved, and now we have these empty storefronts that we approved. Is that better than what's there now? Visually, probably, but we still want the businesses full. We still want businesses to succeed in downtown. So I'm inclined not to support it, just because I don't think it really serves the community as a whole right now in the situation we are right now.
Anybody else? Look for a vote.
I mean, I would just kind of, I guess, as a slight rebuttal to Commissioner Reyes's comments. Like the part that's tricky here is that we have to be careful not to say just because we disagree with how the zoning ordinance or what we're requesting to be put in downtown, we can have the disagreement that maybe we're putting too much stuff downtown. That's kind of separate from what we're being asked here, which is a specific set of criteria on whether or not this particular plan meets that. And we have to be careful not to say it's not meeting that criteria because we don't think we want more development downtown. So while I'm kind of in this weird, like, I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it, we do have to be careful that just because we think we don't want more buildings, that it's now not meeting some of these things, so that's where I'm stuck in this spot, is that it actually seems like it's meeting a lot of them when I try to weigh them and take a step back, but I'm also in a similar boat where I'm just not sure how much more I want to put downtown with us looking at parking again and other stuff, so.
I think to your point as well, and my original point, which is that, the idea of this space is great. I don't have an issue with the actual development other than its size and the bulk of it and how much it's going to take for people to go to these restaurants and go to these businesses, and how that could negatively affect the businesses that are already established there, the residences that are already established there, and their quality of life. And I think that this particular building is just too much for this space, given all the, setback requirements and all the, accommodations that they're looking for. I mean, that's telltale right there. So I think that if this were brought in, to us with a little bit more, like less than what's already here, like this is just too much. I think it needs to be redesigned something a little bit less that would be more accommodating to the neighborhood. But I'm not saying that the development isn't necessary or wanted in the area.
Yeah, I believe too that if what the village wants is less density, then the standards should be changed then. The zoning, bulk requirements and those types of things should be changed. I think you got to apply, I understand there's a little bit of flexibility, with some of these mixed use things and the fact that it's a PUD. But if you don't like the requirements, I think you have to change the requirements and not judge a petition differently because you feel there's another problem, like we don't want any more buildings downtown. Well, that's not what all of our documents say, and it's not what the village says. The village has a plan that there should be more of this kind of thing. And if it gets to the point where the traffic people and the parking people feel like there's a detrimental problem of some type, then they go back and revisit parking alternatives or maybe change the standards for future development. But at this time, after having just gone through all the standards, they've provided what we've asked for. Anybody else have anything they want to say before we go for a motion here? No? Somebody ready to move on this?
I'll make a motion. Ready?
Get at it.
Based on the petitioner submittal, the staff report, and the testimony presented, I find that the petitioner has met the standards of approval for a lot of reconfiguration, special use, 2 zoning map amendments, planned unit development, and variation as required by the Village of Downers Grove zoning ordinance, and is in the public interest, and therefore I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Village Council approval of 25 PZC 0022, subject to the following conditions, and these would be 1 through 4 in the staff's report.
A motion to approve by Mr. Toth. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Wolf. Roll call.
All right, Toth,
Aye.
Wolf, Frankovic,
Nay.
Patel,
Aye.
Lincoln,
Aye.
Reyes,
Nay.
Chairman Rickard.
Yeah, Mr. Barry.
Sorry, Mr.
I
Barry.
feel left out. Aye.
Chairman Rickard.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
Hey, what is that? 7-2?
Yes. Sorry, 6-2.
6-2. Oh, we're missing one. Okay. Okay, so that's recommended for approval. Next stop at the Village Council. You have a.
Yeah, tentatively scheduled for the first reading. Again, those that might be here for the first time. We do 2 the Village Council agenda items. The first reading effectively is like a workshop, so that will be on scheduled right now for March 3rd, with the active agenda 1 week later on March 10th. So March 3rd and March 10th. But as I said with the previous case, agenda items are subject to change. Please look at our website the Friday before each of those meetings, and obviously contact us if you have any questions. So thank you.
And we have another item on the
Yes,
agenda.
we do. I am going to sub in for Mr. Popovich, our community development director. Wish he could have been here. But he had some personal matters. So I'm going to give a very high level overview of the zoning ordinance update project that we're going to be embarking on this year. If you remember from the guiding DG plan, there was several recommendations that you can find actually through all 4 plans that could result in zoning ordinance changes. This is a next logical step that usually occurs after our comprehensive planning efforts. So this is on our long-range planning as assigned by council for us to tackle this year. So what I'm going to do is provide just a very brief overview on what the plan is going to be over the next 8 to 12 months on some of the bigger items that we're going to look at for the zoning text amendments. Some of you have seen previous text amendment efforts that we have. This one's going to be a little bit different just because of the plans that were just approved. So there's going to be thematic topical areas that we're going to come back to this group to just steer us, give us some recommendations before we come back at the end of the year for a full update to the zoning ordinance. So some of the key concepts, again, these are found in the guiding DG documents, is related to housing, looking at accessory dwelling units in the R zoning districts. So we did this a little bit with the Fairview rezoning that occurred last year. So now we're going to review and see if there's expansion opportunities for the rest of town to do ADUs, again, accessory dwelling units, seeing if there's an opportunity to introduce duplexes, small scale multifamily in the R zoning districts, our residential zoning districts, and then also density bonuses for attainable housing. This is something that we put in the ordinance with the Fairview rezoning and looking to expand that and study that further. Also looking at each of our zoning ordinances to ensure that mixed use is allowed. That is a recommendation that is in several of the different sections of the plan. So it's doing a gut check on our current zoning ordinance to see that. Environmental, this is a big one, not only in guiding DG comp plan, but also sustainability, looking at the topics that you have on that screen. So looking at such items as dark sky lighting, bird-friendly glass, EV regulations, ensuring that native plant requirements are placed in our new developments, looking at solar, geothermal, and small scale. With solar and geo, we do have some of those in our codes today, but just looking to expand that. And then looking at parking, obviously a topic of discussion today, but looking at the requirements throughout the entire community to see if there's some changes, specifically a lot of commentary on the surface parking lots we have on Butterfield and 75th. And there's an opportunity to maybe reduce those parking requirements to encourage redevelopments, right? And then not in guiding DG, but a separate long-range planning item is the digital sign ordinance. What does that mean? Looking at electronic message board signs in the community, because we currently do not allow those at all. I have a couple of diagrams to help represent what I just went over briefly, but this is the diagram from the Fairview rezoning effort that talked about how different accessory dwelling units could work. This is the idea of looking at duplexes or small scale multifamily in our single family zoning districts. And then density bonuses related to attainable housing or affordable housing. So this would be some potential items that we look at as part of any text amendments. Mixed use, I touched on again, is really relooking and making sure we're hitting and making that path possible for mixed use developments throughout the entire community. Specifically looking at these areas, these are our traditional commercial zoning districts. I just talked about this with dark lighting, and then what that diagram represents on the bottom is bird-friendly glass, right? Then looking at all types of alternative energy for structures, cars, automobiles, looking at that and furthering and looking at changes to our zoning ordinance for that. Parking, this is an illustrative example of 75th Street that I think all of us are familiar with and seeing is the parking requirements too much and not allowing additional development to occur there. And then digital signs will be looked at, again, not part of any recommendation of guiding DG, but just looking at this as something that this community has an appetite for. It's been several years since we've looked at this. Here's the schedule. So right now we're here, right? So Stan gave a presentation to council just as a gut check to make sure we're doing everything we're supposed to, but there's going to be check-ins with planning and zoning to talk about these topical areas. I believe the next one we're coming back to you in April is related to those sustainability ordinances. And the way this is going to work is going to be a little different. You're used to seeing one meeting typically for text amendments, and then we go to council the very next month to get that approved. We're going to be hitting you at a couple touch points throughout the entire year on these topics, and then we'll come back in the end for the actual adoption of the text amendments at the end of the year. So that's what those two orange dots mean towards the end over there. This is just a summary of, again, everything that we'll be working on, but more information to come. Again, this was presented to council, and this is what we're going to come back to you with over the next several months or this year. So if there's any questions about that, let us know, but more to come. April will be the next time that we're going to discuss items, and it's going to be related to the environmental items. So we have staff already working on this right now.
Is there going to be any discussion about old growth tree preservation at all in environmental?
There is not part of this effort. There's a parallel effort that will be occur as part of the LRP of looking at tree preservation and what that means. So when I say we're not looking at it, we're all looking at it as part of the village, but there's other team members that are responsible for that, and we won't see necessarily something right now through this effort, but it is something that's getting studied. And if recommendations come out of that, that might result in a zoning ordinance change, then we'll get in front of you because you do have to look at that and make a recommendation to council. This specific project is related to these items. And then I should mention that we also keep track of things that we are administrating throughout the year, and there can be some tweaks to fix the code a little bit that's not featured on this list. The kind of a catch-all category that we brought in front of you before, we'll be handling that too as part of this. So you're going to see much more than just what's on this list. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Thank you.
We expecting any second monthly meetings over the next couple of months?
You know, we had a couple of good years here, and I'm trying not to do that for the additional meetings each month and schedule these during our regular scheduled meeting. But as I noted, if we know that cases are coming up, and just so we can get out of here at a decent time, we might use that second meeting, but I'm going to give you more than enough time, like I've done in the previous, to kind of see what your availability is, and we'll try to keep.
So we won't have for February though.
No, February, this is it. So we'll see you next month. That'll be it.
That all from staff?
I think so. I want to congratulate Flora again for 8 years. I get to make that announcement later in the year too, right? I can do that. Okay. So we'll do that. We've got a lot of great projects we've worked on and many more to come. So we now have 9 members on Planning and Zoning Commission. So congratulations to that. But as I always say, please let me know if you're not going to make a meeting so we're not scrambling. You do have the calendar, and just if something comes up last minute, we always understand that. But just let me know.
Okay, that's it for
That's it.
item 3. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
We kill off public comment.
It is on the agenda. You're the first person since I've been here for 12 years that's
Utilize the general public
that's
comment.
called me on that. I don't know that I've ever seen that happen, but yeah, come on up.
Well, don't worry, I'll always
I know you
Robert's
will.
Rules of Order guy. My name is Robin Trilofs, and I reside at 1225 Parkway Drive in Downers Grove. For over 30 years, I've had the privilege of living in the historic Prince Pond neighborhood, an area with historic significance for Downers Grove, and a photograph of which is featured in the comprehensive plan. Tonight's agenda includes your review of the list of recommendations staff has gleaned from the guiding DG plans to be considered as part of the zoning ordinance update, which will take place over the next year. I'm here to address the future of the 6 properties situated at the northwest corner of Saratoga Avenue and Warren Avenue, where historic single-family homes begin on the west side of Saratoga Avenue. Our advocacy for removal of these properties from the future land use map began at the November 19, 2025 Village Council Planning Meeting. The council agreed with us that these properties should be zoned residential and directed us to bring the matter to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We did so, and while our preference is single-family detached residential zoning,
We support the comprehensive plan's designation of this corner as single-family attached. However, within the downtown zoning district, these parcels remain zoned as downtown transition and identified as, quote, available land for new development, close quote, in the land use influences map. As such, these properties could be used for business purposes. It is our firm belief that downtown and downtown transition should not encroach upon the historic Prince Pond residential neighborhood, which begins with the west side of Saratoga Avenue. We do not believe business, commercial, or retail belong in this stable residential neighborhood. Our position is grounded in 4 key points. First, Prince Pond's community value. The park is a cherished resource utilized by residents from across the community. It represents a central gathering point and a symbol of our neighborhood's identity. You would have enjoyed it this weekend when literally over 50 people were ice skating there. Historical significance. Prince Pond is a designated historic site that dates back to the suburban plat created by E.H. Prince in the 1890s. As a foundational piece of our town's history, it deserves recognition and protection. Established village practices. Traditionally, the village separates downtown and business zones from residential areas with a clear dividing street. In this case, Saratoga Avenue is that natural boundary. And fourth, preservation of neighborhood character. Allowing commercial entities to encroach on this corner risks setting a precedent for business intrusions into other parts of what is currently a solid residential area. Such development would compromise the character and appeal of our historic neighborhood. Tonight, we respectfully ask the commission to remove these 6 properties from all maps, designating them as any of the downtown zoning districts. Doing so will preserve the stable residential character and historic integrity of this beloved and historic neighborhood. Thank you for listening and for your commitment to preserving the integrity of our community.
Thank you.
Sorry, but I need to head out. I wanted to address, I feel like I'm in Alice in Wonderland and I've walked through the looking glass. We just spent an hour talking about how everyone agrees that parking in downtown is a problem, whether you voted for the last motion or not. There is a consensus that parking is a problem. In the presentation that Mr. Zawilla made, he talked about the parking regulations, which I understand the staff is going to advocate they should be relaxed. And so what you did is you approved this proposal on the basis that the regulations do not require certain parking for commercial and restaurants. And so therefore, the developers met all the requirements. But everyone agrees it's a problem. So what is the village now recommending? That they be relaxed further. And during the comprehensive planning process, multiple residents got up and spoke about the problems with parking in downtown. This is just beyond the pale. I do not understand how people of reason can recognize there's a problem and then change the rules to make it easier for developers and then come back and say, oh, but the developers have met the rules, so we have no alternative but to approve this. Okay? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're passing rules that make it easier for developers to avoid parking requirements while recognizing that there's a problem. That makes no sense to me. That's bad government, and it should change. And I ask you, when they come back to you and talk to you about further relaxing the parking regulations, that you remember this night, you remember the statements you made about there being parking problems, and recommend to the village council that they not relax the parking regulations, but rather pass reasonable regulations to regulate commercial entities and restaurants, because it's a reality. It's indisputable that there should be parking regulations when you start adding commercial and restaurants to a downtown area. You're going to increase parking problems. That's what this entity sits for. is to determine whether that's in the best interest. And I'll be making similar comments to Village Council. This is crazy. Thank you.
I just want to correct one thing you said. You made the statement that everybody here agrees that there's a parking problem downtown. I've never made that comment. And I heard a couple comments up here tonight. I don't know that everybody feels that way. Some people claim that sometimes it's a little hard to find one, but I personally have never, for years, I have not felt there's a parking problem downtown. And a lot of professionals, you can look at me like that way if you like. I understand you're not happy.
You live within walking distance of downtown, so you don't have a parking problem because you can walk to wherever you want to go downtown, okay? But others can't, okay? There are 50,000 residents, and not all 50,000 live within walking distance of the downtown. Thank you.
You're conflating two things, but I do not believe there's a parking problem. There have been a lot of professionals that have looked at our ordinances and standards and have done studies here and agreed that there's not a parking problem. Frankly, there might be a problem of people not wanting to adjust to functioning in a dense area like that. It's not reasonable to expect that you're going to pull up in any business in downtown and park within, 20 yards of the front door. It's just not reality. If that's how you want to do that, then you have to, drive out, somewhere that's not as dense and shop and frequent businesses there. But that's not the purpose of the downtown core. It's not auto oriented. It's not designed to be. It's stated goals in the documents that that's the case. So.
May I make a comment with all due respect? I think that there are some people that don't have the luxury of being able to walk everywhere as everybody does. Some older folks.
Understood.
And so therefore that doesn't take them into consideration statement. So I feel that, that should be taken into consideration to be fair.
Understood.
John Ladon, welcome new members to the commission. I've been working for 41 years to protect the Prince Pond neighborhood. And as a previous speaker, the corner of Saratoga and Warren was changed from R5 to DT, and we've been working now to try to get it back to R5, and we'll continue that effort. But when I saw the proposed changes here, where they're talking duplexes and small, and I get small, multifamily housing in the residential district, I'm just asking you, and I know you'll do this, please look at what zoning, is it R1 to R4? Because most of our community falls within that range. And if the zoning's looking at putting multifamily, small multifamily in the R1 to R4 zoning, and again, I don't know that for fact, I'm still waiting to get additional information, but you can just imagine how that can change a neighborhood. Someone can acquire a lot at Oakwood in Chicago, tear down the house and put in a 4-flat apartment building. So I hope that's not the case. I know we're still real early in the process, but just want to bring it to light that very carefully look at what the R zoning is being proposed and how expansive that could be if in fact we allow duplexes and small apartment buildings in R1 to R4 zoning, and I just hope that's not the case. What we struggled so far at Prince Pond literally could be spread across our whole village. So I know it's early in the process, but I just wanted to bring it to light that to me, that's a very concerning change when they're looking at small housing, apartment housing in R zoning. So thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you.
I want to echo what the gentleman just said, Janet Winningham, regarding the residential changes. We have heard many times when residents come to the village or the commission that object to large developments going in their neighborhoods or what have you. The answer is frequently, well, you knew what the zoning was when you bought it. Well, those of us in R1 and residential neighborhoods knew what we were buying, and now there's a potential that they will change it. That is not right. And so I'm object to any kind of multifamily use on a residential property zone residential. It's not right. It's not fair to the property owners. It will definitely totally revamp the communities and the neighborhoods. Secondly, I would like to ask with regard to the Curtis and Forest Street properties, there are going to be 6 residential units, 8 parking spaces for the residential units. How many of you think that people who are going to pay $48,000 or so a year in rent are not going to have cars or not going to have 2 cars? The zoning ordinances for parking are way too low. It's per unit, not bedroom. And and frequently, like Dash and other buildings, the 1 to 4 was waived. Dash does not have 1.4 for the number of units. I don't believe the Marquee does either. So the parking is discussed in the village plans is totally misleading. The comprehensive plans, as Mr. Schmidt said, public raised many exceptions, many objections, and it was totally and deliberately ignored. There is no discussion of how parking was going to be addressed by any of this stuff, and the removal of parking spaces all along Main Street and Curtis for the outdoor amenity spaces. That's going to make it worse. And the idea of the 2019 parking study, their answer was use the AT&T lot and the church lots to expand parking. One of the statements in the original early drafts of the comprehensive plan said that there are 11 parking lots serving Downers Grove, and they are on any given day 50% full. Turns out the parking spaces that are included are the north and south high school lots, the train lots, every lot that is a building that is owned. And I objected. I called that out and asked, where are they? How at any given day half full? And that misleading and deliberately misleading sentence was removed. It's not in the final plan. So the suggestion that these plans have addressed parking is just false. It's wrong. And I think you all have a responsibility to the community. We're not a mall. We are taxpayers who want to use public amenities that we are paying for and we can't get to. Did you walk to the library in -5 weather? Your plans all consider that we have 75-degree sunny days every day. They don't consider weather. They don't consider moms with strollers who want to take their kids to the library story hour and have to park way somewhere ever and can't and have to negotiate snow and ice. They don't take into consideration seniors who have difficulty walking, having to make amenities and adjustments to be able to use the public spaces and the public amenities that they are entitled to use. I think you need to change your thinking. I appreciate Ms. Frankovit and your comments very much. Mr. Reyes, thank you very much. Use some common sense and think about what the public interest is for the residents and not just the developers and the real estate brokers who are making fortunes on these decisions that you make. So I would suggest to you that you reconsider and change your focus to represent the people of Downers Grove, not just the developers and the business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richards, I think you're the only one that hasn't taken a comment opportunity up here. Are you all set?
Don't listen to it anyway. Thanks anyway.
Okay, I think we covered the agenda then. Didn't miss anything, did I?
Just motion to adjourn.
Yeah, before we do the motion to adjourn, I apologize, but I feel like we need to raise a point of order. We haven't really had the public comment period at the end come up very much. but I think we got to be careful to not turn it into public debate time. It's public comment, so like it can just go on and on if we keep interjecting back and forth. So, I mean, if it's on the agenda, it's something we need to have, but I think we need to have our public comment rules, certain amount of time, let the public say what they'd like to say, and we need to be careful not to, because then we start debating and then it turns into something that's not on the agenda at all to have like a debate after that. So I'd just like to raise that point where we just got to be careful of where that could go.
Okay, one last comment. I'm sorry, because I know we want to adjourn. In the first petition this evening, my name was not called during roll call, but I do want to confirm that I support.
Oh, to vote on that item?
Yeah, I wasn't called to vote in the first one.
Just the first item?
Yeah.
Noted. We'll get on the record.
All right, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move
Motion by Mr. Williams to adjourn, second by
Second.
Mr. Reyes. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.